And we are live. This is my full recap for UFC 311 Islam Makhachev versus Renato Moicano. And UFC 311 delivered from Jiri Prochazka's thunderous finish to Merab Dvalishvili's dominant display. This card had it all. Some of the most exciting bouts that will be remembered for years to come. And on the upswing from a sudden main event change only one day before 311, a lot happened. You know, we saw Renato Moicano. He became the UFC's sacrificial lamb. Jamal Hill may have possibly ended his own career. Umar Nurmagomedov and Peyton Talbot both lost their aura along with their undefeated records. And here were my picks on Saturday afternoon, right? We had 13 matchups altogether. And here were the results. 10 out of the 13 bouts accurately picked. 7 of those 10 accurately predicted for how those winners would win the fight. And it is becoming apparent, you know, we're seeing a clear necessity for elite grappling to supplement specialist craft in mixed martial arts. Ilia Topuria puts it, there is a next generation of fighters in this era that will be challenging the GOAT status of UFC legends of the last 20 years. We saw this theme throughout the card's main and co-main events, but without further ado, let's begin with discussing Islam Makhachev. We saw Islam do Islam things, and Islam had to make it blatantly clear who he is. We all know what the headlines would say if Moicano gave Islam a hard time, and honestly, you know, I was stunned just to see how good Moicano's striking was with Islam in the first few minutes of round 1. And I predicted that Islam would win via KO in round 3. You know, I assumed he would take his time in the first, find weaknesses in Moicano's fighting. But you gotta think, after Islam watched Umar, you know, a member of his own team, take a major loss, and then you have like Khabib in the corner screaming at Umar. You know, he had to set the record straight. You know, yes, it was definitely the most underwhelming bout on the card as a whole. But that being said, with the win, Islam Makhachev extended his winning streak to 15, tied with Kamaru Usman. Second longest winning streak in UFC history, right behind Anderson Silva at 16. And I think he'll do it. I think he'll take the first seat. And here's a funny one, since Islam is already the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, Dana White publicly admitted that Islam is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. You know, that's a big deal for Dana to switch stance after basically like meat riding John Jones for like the last year or whatever. But honestly, it's concerning. It probably means like negotiations with John Jones are not going good, and I think there's some merit to that. But you know, regardless, both Islam and Merab have made clear cases for being GOATs of their division, and it's not even debatable. You know, very soon we'll see the UFC certifying this information publicly, and not even just in Islam's case. In terms of Merab, man, you know, I think Merab should be like #5 on the pound-for-pound list. I don't know how you could have Bilal Muhammad and Dricus du Plessis ahead of him here. They aren't GOATs of their divisions. They haven't even cleared their divisions. You have Merab, he's already cleared his division, and he's only had 1 title defense. So either way, I think Merab proved the haters wrong. He stole the show. And you know, looking back, I see why I personally made the switch from picking Merab to picking Umar. And, you know, regrettably so. I guess I just fell victim to my decision being influenced by rumors I was seeing online, you know, about Merab ducking, and it did appear that way. It very much did appear that way. And then Dana White allegedly, you know, finding a way to replace Merab as champion. That whole rumor going around. I don't know if it's true or not. It just seems like they don't really get along that well. Anyway, that being said, right, Umar, great moments in the first, great moments in the second, early on, locking in and securing both those rounds for him. And then after that, the tides changed, man. We watched Merab drag a Nurmagomedov into the deep waters and drowned his ass. It goes as far as to saying he wished the fight was longer so that he could have more fun. It was ridiculous. I watched it on his post-fight interview, and just he absolutely demoralized Umar. I don't know what else to say. You could see up until probably like round 3 or 4. You know, Umar was looking gassed out, just totally exhausted, and then by round 4, he was getting visibly frustrated. By round 5, just completely defeated. And I don't even know how after the fight Umar like still thought that he won the fight. Also, I want to mention, like, Merab was showboating like since round 3, just emoting on Umar, adding to his frustration. And then you have Merab shooting takedowns in his own corner, just like absorbing all this positive energy and coaching and direction from his corner. Simply put, man, I think Merab's mentality, his supreme cardio, his catch and release wrestling strategy, I think it did its work to break down Umar mentally. It also worked in depleting Umar's energy reserves. To top it off, too, Merab Dvalishvili, he surpassed George St. Pierre's record of most takedowns landed, 90, securing a total of 92 takedowns in his professional career, and he made it happen on his first title defense. Come on, man. Merab is that guy. He is him. Let's shift gears here because I want to discuss the featured bout between Jiri Prochazka and Jamal Hill. And Jiri Prochazka made it crystal clear why he's #1 contender after potentially ending Jamal Hill's career. I don't know what he's going to do after this, but some are even saying that Jiri fraud checked the former light heavyweight champion. And maybe that's an exaggeration, but there's some truth to that. We didn't see the youngest Glover Teixeira or the best Dominic Reyes. That being said, I'm still tempted to say that this was potentially a fight of the night. It was the only fight that had me jumping out of my seat. I was basically standing for all 3 rounds of this fight. Maybe we should have given Merab performance of the night and given Jiri and Hill fight of the night. I thought it was great. I think they both deserved bonuses, both of them. And, it was just a brawl. Great exchanges from both Jiri and Hill. I was concerned at first. I noticed, Jiri's hands started dropping a little early on, and he was looking stiff in the beginning. Jamal Hill utilizing his knees and jabs. And a lot more forward pressure from Hill than I was anticipating. 3 minutes into the first, Prochazka drops Hill twice. The first with a left hook, the second one with a powerful straight left. It's like he's taking a chapter out of Poaton's book. Jiri just continued to outstrike Jamal Hill for the duration of the round, and then at this point, Hill's face is bruised and cut. But yeah, some of the best head movement and distance management that we've seen from Jiri. I think in past fights with Pereira, we'd see Jiri avoiding body shots, but would bend forward. And the jab would hit Jiri directly in the face, but we didn't get that Jiri on Saturday night, Round 2, Hill looked frustrated by Jiri's switch stance. It was throwing off Jamal Hill's rhythm. Jamal Hill had a moment in his round where he blitzed forward with some successful shots landed, but we didn't see Jiri Prochazka back down from that. Explosive power from Jiri's striking consistently throughout. 3 minutes left in the final round, Jamal Hill threw a great combination, but Jiri Prochazka countered and dropped him and finished Hill off in round 3 with ground and pound. All I gotta say, congrats to Jiri, man. Maybe we'll see Poatan versus the Samurai trilogy. I'd be down to see a third one. Does he deserve it? No. I think he needs to rack up 2 more solid wins. Maybe he fights Jan versus Carlos Olberg, the winner of that. And then maybe he fights Khalil Roundtree, and then there we go. Let's get him in there. Let's give him a chance to avenge his only losses from Alex Pereira. But nonetheless, have you guys seen the video of Jamal Hill backstage? This still breaks my heart, man. Watching Jamal Hill fall to his knees backstage. I'm not even a Hill fan, but the empathy I have for the guy. Hopefully we can still see a new Jamal Hill in the future. Hard night for sure, but on a more positive note, Jailton Almeida paved his own path to title contention at heavyweight after TKOing Sergey Spivak in the first round, and Spivak was looking solid right out of the gate with takedowns on Almeida and some sturdy ground and pound as well. Halfway through though, we saw Jailton Almeida reverse a position, enter full mount, take the back of Spivak, led into some great scrambles. Props to Spivak there as well. And then they were back on their feet, and Almeida landed some heaters, dumps Spivak on the ground from the fence, and enters ground and pound from full mount with 20 seconds left on the clock. Absolute masterclass. Very excited to see Jailton Almeida in the top 5. Would be very interested in seeing him fight Cyril Gane this summer. Maybe we'll see him fight for the title next year. I'd love to see it. I think he's on a good path right now. And we also saw how Reinier de Ridder, RDR, is planning to speedrun the middleweight division. He quickly and efficiently submitted Kevin Holland with a rear naked choke, and he did it all in under 3 minutes. Total dominance. Can't lie, man. Felt great after watching Kevin Holland crash out on the Jackson podcast. But back to RDR, this should really come as no surprise to those who have studied de Ridder's professional career at one championship. This guy's clearly the love child of Dricus du Plessis and Chimaev after a one-night stand in Amsterdam. You heard it here first. But I'd love to see a matchup later down the road with one of those guys versus RDR. At this point in time, he'd probably lose badly, but just stylistically, I'd find it amusing, just out of curiosity. RDR is making his way into the rankings here very soon. Realistically, he's just one fight away. So let's see him versus, give him Brendan Allen. Let's give him Michael Venom Page if MVP happens to, defeat Shara Bullet Magomedov in Saudi Arabia. RDR's now 2 submission finishes in a row in just 2 fights with the UFC. I'm looking forward to seeing much more of Reinier Ritter and watching him climb up the rankings here in 2025. But let me finish off with this premise. We cannot forget the narrative behind the scenes at play in this card and will be at play for the rest of the year. We got to think of the next generation of MMA. What's happening here? We have Islam, right? A specialist in wrestling with top tier traditional kickboxing. We have Merab, right? Specialist in his cardio, pairs well with his elite wrestling. It's pretty useful in terms of his inability or maybe unwillingness to chase finishes. And then you have also Ilia Topuria, right? He's someone that's a specialist in like dynamic power and boxing. It's balanced really well with his elite wrestling that a lot of people don't know he has. We have to remember this too. We had UFC 313 announced on Saturday. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev in March. Poatan, a specialist in kickboxing and power, will need to demonstrate that he can keep up in the wrestling department if Ankalaev or maybe a future opponent decides to implement this tool into their game plan, but we'll find out soon enough. That's the video for today, guys. Please leave a like. Remember to subscribe for more UFC content by yours truly, Noah with Youngblood MMA. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Good night.